Morning. It is about 7:30 a.m. in the Florida Panhandle on the morning of Wednesday, December 18th. There has been some big news out of Russia related to its economy over the last few days, specifically interest rates. I am Adam Taxin, no expert on the economy. I did major in economics at Harvard, but please don't hold that against me too much, even though Melissa Francis, the Fox Business, used that in her favor, but I know better than to say that being indoctrinated in a lot of Keynesian economics is something to my credit. In my defense, I will say I had pretty atrocious study habits in college and did not get particularly outstanding grades. I did fine, but I guess I did not absorb the Keynesian message too much. I would like to think that although I'm no expert on the economy, I know to whom I should not listen to: Jim Cramer and many others on TV, who the powers that be want you to listen to. I also would like to think that I do know who to listen to, at least at times, and one of those people is Barnhardt, who I consider one of the most worthwhile voices of our time, just in general, not just on economic matters, in which she is certainly an expert. But Russia, interest rates. She had a piece out the other day. You can read it on barnhardt.biz. You should you bookmark that very highly. But I know a lot of you don't like to read that much. It hurts your eyes. You have to drive. You have to walk the dog. You have to work out. You have to, I guess this time of year, shovel snow in a lot of parts of the country. And you'd rather listen to things rather than read them. And Ann Barnhardt does not make audio available of most of the things she has to say. So here I am doing it on one of my YouTube channels. I think this one, where I'm going to post it first, is called Barnhardt and Soul. It's a work in progress. I'll certainly have it going before the end of the secular year, the start of a new one. And I'll probably post it on my sort of omnibus channel, Taxin, and maybe a few other channels, which I'll provide the link to. Oh, by the way, I know some of you are distracted probably by what's in the background. I like it, but I'll show it to you. It just says there is always something to be thankful for. Now let's get down to business. And let me read you the Ann Barnhardt piece from the last day or two regarding Russia. It is called Extremely Ominous. Russia's central bank just raised interest rates to 17%. Again, I'm reading it, so I hope you enjoyed that great eye contact before, but now I'm reading from the screen. Yesterday, Russian interest rates were at 10.5%, which sounds almost incomprehensibly high to those of us who have been living in the world of ZIRP, zero interest rate policy, for the past 6 years. Well, overnight, the Russian central bank raised interest rates 650 basis points in one shot to 17%. And we all remember what parabolic increases in interest rates mean. Cough, cough. She posts a link there, which I will put on the side here, or maybe I've already done it by the time you see this, but it should be there. The Russian economy is now completely dependent upon oil. 25% of Russia's GDP is derived from the energy industry. Half of the Russian government's budget is funded by tax revenue from energy. Apparently, someone didn't go to class the day they taught about diversification. Must have been out shirtless, bareback riding that day. I will add that she is clearly not a fan of Putin. Even I didn't realize how heavily levered Russia was in energy until I looked it up just now. It's categorically insane. Again, I'm not a professional reader. So now Brent crude is trading under $60 per barrel, and Russia's economy is imploding. People are selling the ruble and moving into the dollar, euro, yen. Pretty much anything is considered a flight to quality at this point. Heck, the ruble is crashing even relative to the Venezuelan bolivar. One more announcement as a digression. I just want to point out this is not a pink shirt, but a movie maker doesn't necessarily have the best color. It's really a faded red shirt. I am not John Boehner or something. I don't do pink shirts. So, in order to attract capital into Russia, which they need desperately because the massive petroleum expansion was financed with debt, they are raising interest rates, hoping to retain that capital which remains, and more importantly, to attract new capital. And you know what? The market is showing that even with Russian bonds paying out at 17%, the interest rate still isn't high enough. People who were holding Russian bonds before are still selling them, and there is no new buying interest. And the ruble is still selling off. If Russia can't price its bonds into the market and attract capital to shore itself up, the banking system will fail, and Russian bank deposits will be bailed in. In other words, swept as they were in Cyprus. But don't worry, all of the Russian oligarchs keep their money in London. So why is this happening in Russia and not in the West? I believe that the difference is that the Russian economic bubble has been inflated by highly leveraged petroleum revenues. But the West's economy, as Carl Denninger has been screaming for years, has been propped up by Federal Reserve and European Central Bank money printing. Everything in the US is debt-driven. Heck, Americans are using credit not just to buy houses and cars, but to buy groceries today. New debt creation has outpaced GDP growth in the US since the Carter administration, sometimes by as much of a factor as 7-1. Which is worse? Clearly, the Western paradigm is worse. At least Russia's economy, levered though it may be, is tied to a physical commodity, and perhaps the physical commodity par excellence: energy. The Western economic paradigm is inextricably tied to larceny, currency debasement, and the forcible financial rape of multiple generations of people, many of whom will not even be born for decades or centuries hence. So in the West, in our debt bubble, we are in a massive catch-22 that can perpetuate itself a bit longer than Russia's petroleum bubble, but is far more toxic. Namely, if the Federal Reserve banksters keep interest rates synthetically at zero, all of the interest income dependent portfolios, i.e. money market funds, pension funds, 401k and IRA, insurance companies, and Social Security and Medicare, will eventually implode due either to a simple lack of revenue or because the high-risk derivatives they have migrated into in order to generate any sort of return have collapsed. But if they allow interest rates to rise and the bond market genuinely comes back into play, there will be a massive move of money out of the equities and also residential real estate, obviously. And the stock market bubble will utterly collapse, along with the real estate bubble. Both Russia and the West are in check on the chessboard, but the board is far more open for Russia. The West has basically nowhere to go and is down to its last piece. Putin has been flexing his military muscle like crazy lately, with Russian fighters and subs probing and flat out incurring into European and North American airspaces and waterways on a near daily basis. Putin is economically trapped and is also nuts, and history tells us that when nuts strong men become trapped, they get out of it by starting wars. If Putin were to invade Finland, Estonia, and Poland tomorrow, you and I both know that the former US would do nothing to stop it. Former US is a term Anne Barnhardt frequently uses. Again, and I cannot say this enough, get out. Get out. Get out of the financial system as much as you possibly can, while you can. Your money, your savings, is a fungible proxy for all of those years of your life that you spent working. All of that time, all of that labor. If the fungible proxy of zeros and ones on a computer server becomes extremely vulnerable to theft with no recourse or rule of law, then prudence dictates that you should defend your property by reallocating into something that is at least less vulnerable than zeros and ones, which are wholly, completely contingent upon the rule of law and the fiduciary integrity of its ruling class. Considering that the ruling class today is wholly comprised of psychopathic oligarchs, and that the rule of law is dead, replaced instead by an arbitrary tyranny, need I say more? Thanks for listening.